Call the meeting to order. Chair recognizes the manager. You have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor. I don't have anything on the first page. On the second page, number one is a public hearing for the issuance of airport special facilities revenue bonds. These are a lot like IRBs, in the amount of $4 million to build two hangars, for Clemens to build two hangars, 18,000 square foot hangars at the Jabara Airport. They would be transferring 17 employees from their Stearman field and creating 16 new positions over 5 years. Number two is the acquisition of property to expand Chester I. Lewis Reflection Park. You approved the TIF plan for this just recently, and this is now to use $265,000 in TIF funds to go ahead and make that acquisition. Number three is the $1.2 million to rehab and replace lift stations at 6 different locations in the city. Number four is a $525,000 project, and I'm going to read to you some of the improvements. These are all basically repairs and rehabs of existing facilities in our parks. It includes in North Linwood, it's a shelter replacement in that park, footbridge renovation at Swanson Park, patio restoration at Edgemore Rec Center, and then repairs at the Westside Athletic Field Stadium, Pawnee Prairie Park Nature Center, our pool, boathouse repairs, boardwalk at Chisholm Creek Park.
Mr. Manager, Councilmember Fry would like the floor for a question. Councilmember Fry.
Bob, do we have condition assessment reports on each one of these? After last week's agenda item regarding the tennis courts and basketball courts, where we had no condition assessment reports, I'd like to see a little bit more data or maybe pictures or something as it relates to each one of these. I just don't like going blind into it. I mean, I can get out there this weekend and try and eyeball all this stuff, but if there's a staff report that tells us a little bit more detail about each one of these, that would be appreciated.
I agree. I think that would give a visual for the people watching as well, where we're starting from and where we're trying to go with it.
Yeah, thanks, Brian. I agree with that too, because like Westside Athletic Field Stadium, I was trying to figure out, I know Friends just did all of that improvement. They didn't improve everything, but just what are the enhancements we're looking at here, or the repairs we're looking at?
Yep. We'll go ahead and I'll get pictures dropped into the PowerPoint. Either that or I can get a bus for you.
You drive me around.
Yeah. We'll go ahead and get that done. Good question, or good comment.
Thank you.
Number 5 is a grant application to the Department of Justice, $1.2 million for PPE and technology purchases associated with COVID-19, primarily in the police department, with a little bit going to the fire department. That's all I have on page 2. On page 3, we have the quarterly report for the quarter ending March 31st. That's the last one you're really going to want to look at. After that, they're going to get a little ugly, I think. And then down to the bottom on council member agenda, you've got 3 items on the council member agenda. 2 of them are related to letters of support. One is for the Salvation Army and the work they've been doing related to COVID-19 and helping citizens in our community. Second one has to do with the financial straits that the live music venues are finding themselves in, and asking for their support, asking for your support of their request for federal assistance. And then number 3 is allowing you to go ahead and adopt the procedures that we followed at our last council meeting, that we will for the next council meeting, regarding how the public can participate in writing as well as live from remote sites.
Bob, I have a question. This is Cindy.
Yeah.
I've had a couple questions on when we might begin public agenda again, public agenda. And I know we're not doing it now. Are we giving any thought to doing that while we're still having offsite meetings, people offsite, or have we decided to wait until after we can come back?
It's really your call. Now that we have the remote sites, we have a little more capability to do that. So if somebody did want to come in that way, we can't do it remotely, right? I think we're still running into a little bit of limitation technology from a technology standpoint. But now that we have those 2 rooms at C2, it's up to you when you want to bring that back.
Okay, thanks. We can talk about that later. I just wanted to see where we were. Thanks.
Yeah,
Okay.
and I just want to just echo. I also had the same type of inquiry from the public on, since we have Century 2, can we start a public agenda again? My thought on that is, starting that as soon as possible, whenever it makes sense for having staff there, having things set up, just because I think that the reasoning for discontinuing the public agenda has now been addressed. We now have a safe way that we can have the public in one room or in a room and have their ability to communicate with the council in real time. So just so we can get that, I think that's a good step, getting things back to normal. If we could try to get that done as quick as possible, as when it's feasible, that I think would go a long way for the people who have reached out to myself and also to Vice Mayor Claycomb.
If there's not an objection, we can start that June 2nd.
No objection
support it.
here.
No objection here.
Okay, we'll go ahead and we'll get the word out that will start back up again on June 2nd.
Perfect. And very last thing about starting this up on June 2nd, since now we're gonna have some time to, I think, plan that. I did have a constituent post that she was asking about security measures being taken, and about how at City Hall you have to go through our security to get into City Hall, so it's a safe area. Century 2 isn't really set up for that. So I think there were some concerns about showing up and doing, commenting on the agenda, pretty much discussing political opinions or policy opinions, and not feeling completely safe. And I'm wondering if, as we start opening up to Century 2, we probably can't put in metal detectors or anything like we have here, but if there's a way that we can get a guard or someone over there to somewhat have a level of security that I think people have become accustomed to when they show up at City Hall.
I'll double check, Mayor, but I believe we'd already made that arrangement for this meeting, and then we would do that in the future as well.
Very good.
I don't think we had security presence on the 12th, but we had planned on doing it for the 19th.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you. That's all I have for page 4. On page 5, just a few items. Number 6, this is an overestimate bid for the aquatics master plan. And actually, I apologize. I had meant to move this to the new business because of its size. Under your policy, this is an appropriate item on the consent agenda, but it is 15% overestimate, and it's almost $1 million. It's $980,000. And it's for the renovation of Ailey, McAdams, and Orchard. And so because of its size, unless you object, I probably will move it to new business so that you can have a presentation and understand why the bids came in higher.
I'd like that.
Please do.
And also, I think that if this is to renovate Ailey, McAdams, and Orchard, that includes District 6 also.
Got it.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Number 7 is an emergency gate repair at Cheney. It's about, we're asking for a $300,000 change order in order to make those repairs. And then number 8 is a grant application to FEMA for $20,000 for fire safety activities. Mayor, that's all I have for the 19th.
All right. Are there any questions on the agenda for the manager or for staff?
Yeah, I have one.
Councilmember Johnson.
Bob, real quick, not necessarily for this meeting, could we potentially start doing those quarterly financial reports as like a separate YouTube video as well? I share those meetings and people can go through it and try to find it, but if we just had those quarterly reports available, we could just share those out regularly for folks who can't make it.
We could probably splice it. Would that?
Yeah,
work as
or
well?
just cut it from that, but just share it
Sure.
separate, just so people can focus on those.
Because your concern, and just for sake of discussion, your concern is that people don't want to go through the full hour and a half meeting to get the financial report. But if we had that separate, 2-minute, 3-minute,
Yeah.
then we could help educate the public a little more on what the financial
Well,
health.
that, and I'm not asking for this, but I always kind of felt if we had any evening meetings, those should be the evening meetings, so people can see what our quarterly finances are, if nothing else. But
smart.
this way, we could separate it and share it with folks.
Yeah, that's smart.
So you always make fun of me for getting excited about the financial reports, and now you want everybody to share in that excitement? Is that it?
Absolutely. They can all
It's a
sleep with the
vicious
rest
world you're
of us.
working, Bob.
Grab the popcorn.
You can't have all the fun.
Right.
All right. Yes, I'll talk to our communication staff and we'll get, we can do that. In fact, we'll do it starting with this meeting, right? After the presentation, we'll go ahead and get something put together.
Okay, thanks, Bob.
Anything else?
Other questions or comments?
Well, technically not the agenda, but I heard yesterday in the briefing, your Small Business Advisory Council meeting is today.
Yeah, it was today.
Oh, you've already had it?
Yeah, I'm gonna post something about this. We just had this small business advisory meeting. I have had staff in there to record it. Hopefully it was recorded, and also to take minutes. I plan to tweet out the minutes, pretty much release the minutes, hopefully post a recording. We had members who have been approached by the media to kind of give a follow-up on their experience with it. So we'll probably get, some of those, some of that experience out there. My goal is to, and it's weird to balance, I want to make sure that we're transparent with what's going on with it, but also if I was to do like an hour and a half long Facebook Live, that's really not how you do the Facebook Live. So we're trying to balance the technology, but at the moment, the plan is to release definitely the minutes, a summary, and the file. I'm not sure how large it is, if it's something that we should or we could just upload to YouTube, at the very least, give it to the council so that you guys are all up to date with what was discussed. And roughly it was mostly today, I have to check my notes, more about access to PPE for the salon industry. We did do a review of what went well, during the beginning of the crisis. A lot of people, I think, had access to particularly one of the loans, and then like what went bad. And went bad is like S corps had tougher times with some of the loans that were put out. And moving forward, there are people who are looking for avenues to get PPE and to get hand sanitizer and so on, and they're doing so pretty much on the free market, which, not really sure what the quality of the products are. And, so moving, and one of my action steps is to talk to possibly the chamber and see if we can get more of that homemade stuff that we had our live video on earlier this week about the Wichita micro community or micro economy is creating some of this stuff. How do we get those in touch? And also, and kind of standardize some of the processes going forward, and to see if there are any avenues that maybe at the city level, are there avenues to get PPE that ensures the quality, while also ensures that, are we getting at a cheaper price that we can maybe offer to some of our small businesses? That was something we'll have to bring up, of course, with staff, so that they're not just getting kind of random stuff off the internet. And so that's pretty much the summary. But my goal is to make all that stuff available to everyone. And
Good.
I'm trying to work out the best way to do that. But yeah, we're gonna move forward with it. So
Yeah,
it was good.
I think we're all probably getting the same kind of questions from businesses in our district. So
Yeah.
any best practices or things that we can share is very good to have. So
Yeah, definitely. And the other thing too, I just want to remind people, because whenever you do anything different, people I think get concerned with it. That's kind of like the first response, where this is supposed to switch every 3 months. This particular council, sometimes it'd be really big, sometimes it'd be small, and I plan on doing other types of councils too. But this one is for 3 months, and it's focused mostly on service industry. As we're kind of opening back up. The next one, I mean, there'll be a time where it's going to be pretty much all manufacturing, because manufacturing will be what we're working on next. So the goal is to be responsive to the needs of the economy at the time. And really what we're looking for is reactions to the type of policy that we, as policymakers and legislators at the state level or at the federal level, we all do stuff with a certain intent, and we want to see if that intent is actually getting through, or if there's unintended consequences on what the policy is causing, so that we can, address that. So that's overall the goal of it. But yeah, I think once I start releasing the videos and giving more info, people will kind of have a better understanding on what we're doing. But good question, and yeah, it was at 9 o'clock. We went over, and I think it was successful. It was good, except. Jason fell over, I think, or his iPad did. I don't know.
Who?
One of the guys on it.
No.
Looks like he fell over, but it might have just been his iPad. But anyways, no one was harmed, so that's important to report on. Other comments?
Mayor?
Yes.
Mayor, just 2 comments for you. One, regarding the issue of PPE, you remember on Monday there was the announcement that the chamber has on its website a long list of suppliers.
Yep.
And our purchasing department obtained quotes from most of those suppliers based on quantity and the type of material. So that's a good starting point for all those businesses. That was the purpose of it. I don't know, it may be harder in terms of quality control, and I understand the concerns about that. And our committee will meet again next week, and we'll go ahead and talk about that. I'm glad you brought that up. I'm not quite sure how we'll be able to address that, but we'll at least talk about that.
Excellent. Yeah, and that's and that's the type of stuff we're looking for, where, if there's a local solution, and I did mention the website with the chamber and making those connections. So yeah, that's what we're looking for. And I, as more questions come in, I will present those questions to the council and to staff to see if we can come up with better solutions. But yeah, that would be something definitely, I think, in your next meeting with business leaders to bring up and see if we can create a pathway for these small businesses to get the stuff they need.
And then the other thing, just a reminder, and we'll set out an official notice on this, but the retreat on the budget has been moved from the 20th to the 26th. And so we'll next Tuesday, excuse me, the 26th, we'll do a real quick consent agenda and then roll right into the budget retreat.
And I had a question about the last meeting, the business meetings that we're talking about. If any businesses wanted to check in and listen or monitor those meetings, are those meetings open meetings? Can they do that?
They're open meetings.
So we're working on the technology for that, where I want them to be open meeting. Technically, we're not discussing policy, so we're not in a problem with Cora. And I got to talk with staff, because we talked about this yesterday. Pretty much like my thought was like, okay, I'll sit at the desk and we'll have the Zoom meeting going on, and then have like my cell phone held up here recording the Zoom meeting to log in on YouTube. But then there's probably a better way to do it, is kind of what I'm saying, where we can.
Well, just as there's several small business owners who, they'd probably be extremely interested about, the discussion. So I was just curious if they were open, if anybody could at least listen in and listen to the discussion.
And that might be.
If you don't mind,
go ahead.
If you don't mind, let let me work with the mayor on this issue and see what we can bring to bear in terms of technology, and talk about the open meetings portion of
Just
it.
curious. Yeah, just
Yeah.
curious. Not, yeah, okay.
And also,
If it is, I have one question. I think if it is subject to open meetings, I think the legal staff probably ought to be asked about that in
Yeah,
terms of,
that's, yeah.
so I want to be
We'll-
very
we'll take a-
clear that the legal staff has told me that this isn't subject to open meetings. So moving forward, I want it to be open meetings because, for sake of transparency, and that's why we're going to release the videos. But my understanding is unless I got that wrong. Now, I'm interested in how you guys do this with your dabs, because if you have some technology or some answers on how you guys form, the mayor doesn't have a dab. This kind of fills in that role of like what a dab would do.
Yeah, we just Facebook Live.
Okay, yeah. So I'd be very interested in the trial and error that the council members have done to help get this going. Now, normally, if we were just meeting here, let's say, and we could go Facebook Live and have a camera, that's really easy. My issue, and I think that we're going to, I think, figure this out a little easier when we talk to our staff, and Bob has indicated he's going to help me with this, is can we set it up where I can run more than one program, like screenshot the Zoom meeting and then run it on YouTube or Facebook, so that it is live, people can listen in. What I don't want is anyone who can just come in and just start discussion, right? Like, so I want it to mimic like if it was a meeting here and people can come in, they can sit in the back and they can watch it. It would be inappropriate to stand up and start arguing or talking. When you bring that online, the culture of kind of online communication is you can start typing and kind of insert yourself into some of these conversations. So I'm trying to find that balance, right, where the committee or the council can talk and we can stay focused and people can watch it without inserting themselves into that to kind of throw off what the current topic is. So it's just, I think, finding that balance with the technology, and we can get there. It'd be a lot easier, of course, if we didn't have COVID, but we're all going to be adjusting as we move forward.
And I'm the lowest tech person in the world, so probably the least to be speaking about this, but like right now we're Facebook Live, right? And anybody can be watching it, but nobody can be making comments or interjecting. So I would imagine it would be pretty easy to do just what we're doing now as a Zoom meeting as well. So I'm sure we have the technology and the skill to be able to do it.
Well, and that's what I hope, but we also have the camera. So that's what we got to figure out. Like, do I bring that camera? Can I do it without a big camera? Can you just screenshot kind of my screen, or how's it work? So it's a little more complex when we thought about this yesterday. Just
I was just concerned about people being able to listen in and get the info. So
Right.
I mean, I didn't mean to open a can of worms here necessarily.
No, and I don't mean to talk this out. I just want you guys to know, we have been thinking about this, and we are trying to figure out a solution, and it's going to be a technical solution, and it's complex because it's multiple platforms. So, yes.
So I just wanted to mention, as Councilmember Tuttle said, I've been on, as I mentioned last week, I've used 7 different platforms, and they've figured this out. So we do have a technology solution.
Well, I'm open to any advice. It's been 2 weeks since I've appointed the first round of this council. It's to be on Zoom. That's from the beginning. If there is any advice, now that we had our first meeting, moving forward, how you guys have been successful and other people have been successful of not only hosting a Zoom meeting, but then having that Zoom meeting access live to people who want to watch the Zoom meeting, but not really be a part of the Zoom meeting, which means their background noise, their stuff doesn't actually insert into our conversation. And we can mimic the type of meetings we have at City Hall. I would love that type of feedback so that, like I said, we're kind of, I don't need to reinvent the wheel if you guys already figured it out. So, and I would need that feedback before the next meeting because, you know, I can't do anything about the meeting that happened at 9 o'clock now, so I would rather, if we have some solutions, we can enact those solutions right away so that we can address these concerns.
I guess I'll just give mine, Mayor and Bob, just how we did the small business live stream on Facebook when we had Wayne Bell, Mike Z's office, and Secretary Toland's office, if we could get with the mayor and kind of show how we did that.
Okay.
Other questions or comments? Okay, good. And moving forward, once we get this thing online, just if you have suggestions or comments, please bring it to me before we have the meeting so I can enact those ahead of time and be proactive instead of responsive. So if there are concerns, please let me know those. I'll be happy to make those adjustments so that moving forward, we're all on the same page, because I don't want it to be reactionary. I'd rather be proactive. Any comments for the good of the body? See none. Thanks a lot, guys. Barring no objections, we're adjourned.
Thank you, Bob.
Thank you.